Hey everybody, welcome to EduMatch. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So please follow along with us at bit.ly/tweettalk83, as well as on Twitter with the hashtag EduMatch. So speaking of EduMatch, did you know that you could be the featured person of the day? It's really cool. If you go to our website and click on the sign up tab, then you're able to fill out the Google form that will let you be the featured person of the day. It'll help you build up your PLN, and you can connect with some amazing educators from all over the world. So just wanted to give a huge shout out to our moderator, Dr. Joe Mazza, who is here with us today. And he suggested a very, very important topic, SemicolonEDU. So in just a couple minutes, then we're going to dive right in. But first, let's get to some introductions. So we're going to go from my left to my right. So starting first with Leslie.
Hi, can you hear? I'm sorry, I'm having some issues today. I'm good. My name is Leslie. I am an instructional technology coach in a suburb south of Atlanta, and I am excited to be here this evening.
And we are excited to have you. So thank you so much for joining us, Leslie. And next we have Tracy.
Hi, I'm Tracy Brady. I teach French and Spanish in the Hudson Valley in New York State, and I'm happy to be here as well.
Thank you, Tracy. So happy to have you here. And last and certainly not least, we have our awesome moderator, Dr. Joe Mazza. So Joe, if you could please introduce yourself and then go ahead and get started with the conversation.
Sure. Hi, Joe Mazza, father of 4 under 4 and surviving here on a Sunday night. So if there are any noise violations, I apologize in advance, but you'll get a real taste of what it's like. I'm in the basement here and they're up on the first floor. So I teach at the University of Pennsylvania in the Graduate School of Education in the master's and the doctoral program in Ed Leadership, former lead learner of Knapp Elementary School, big geek learner, and been working at the SemicolonEDU stuff for the last couple of years, and excited to talk about it tonight and have a great conversation with some friends here.
Awesome. Awesome. We are so super excited to have you here. So thank you very much for joining us. So if you wanted to go ahead and get started with the first question, then that would be awesome.
All right. So we've got 4 questions lined up tonight. We'll see if we can hit all of them and do them justice. The first one is really on defining SemicolonEDU. SemicolonEDU is basically a product of the project Semicolon idea that started a couple years ago. So we really want to first, by opening up, in case you just heard about it or you never heard about it, just defining SemicolonEDU, talking about the origin, talking about where you heard it at first. So I'll open it up to the panel and just kind of talk about the first place that you heard it, saw it, experienced it, and then we'll kind of all share and we'll move forward there. So who wants to shout out here?
Okay, it was on Twitter, and I think it was probably Nick Provenzano's blog that I stumbled onto first. And then I just did a little bit of searching into Project Semicolon and found out about it. And to be perfectly frank, depression and anxiety is something that I have struggled with since I was a teenager. And so it was very refreshing to see educators who had been able to tell their stories and be open about that. And the more I read, and when I decided to get my first ink, that was what I opted for. So I have a semicolon on the inside of my wrist, and that's something that I still look to when I have rough moments, and it kind of grounds me and reminds me that my story isn't over, which is what the semicolon is intended to signify.
Absolutely. Great. Great. Leslie, did you want to share?
I do, and I kind of sort of heard about it. My office is next door to our district. Got a grant from, I think, the state, and we have what's called Project Aware, and their office is next door to ours, and they're all about helping our students with mental health issues. So, we've had a lot of conversations, and I think that's where I first heard about it, because like, Tracy and probably a lot of other people, for as long as I can remember, have had issues with depression. And it seems the older I get, you know, being a middle-aged woman, I'm just going to put that out there, it doesn't help a whole lot either. But I don't know, I'm just curious to see what others have struggled with, and I'm glad to be part of this conversation, because I think we need to do more to get it out there, to let other people know it's okay to talk about mental health issues.
Yeah, yeah. I know personally for me, and yeah, here's my semicolon tattoo right there in ink. I got mine with Nick Provenzano, I guess 2 years ago. And Nick wrote a post just sharing some of the challenges that he was going through, and it really just kind of stopped me in my tracks. And it wasn't that I, wanted to write a blog post later on or get on Twitter or share with a whole bunch of people that I was feeling similar in some areas, very different in other areas. But it really gave me an opportunity to reflect and say, wow, like, look at this educator who I admire, I consider a friend, who's also a father, is also a husband, is also doing some really great stuff. This person is admitting that they're not this perfect, I'll just say Facebook perfect, because, when you look on Facebook and you see everyone's amazing day and great trips and this and that, it's just not reality of what life is really like. And I think that's something that I've been able to start to unpack myself. So it was a full year before, after reading Nick's post, that I actually came public with my own ADHD and depression challenges on a day-to-day. And it's been powerful in a lot of ways. That's almost 2 years ago now. I did a TED Talk in Boston, and that was the first time that I talked about it. But I think that there's a growing support for educators to be real, and really to model for kids that, hey, no one's perfect. If any of you thought that your teachers or your parents were perfect, or if that's the way we present ourselves on a day-to-day, we're not doing you any favors by putting that front on. So that's how, I've been able to kind of be open and more honest about this, not only with people on a day-to-day, but my family, my wife, who is way stronger than I am in a lot of areas. It's something where I've got to look out for my own kids. I've got 4 kids, and the chances of them having a challenge in the area of mental health is probably pretty good. So I know at some point they're going to take a look at, what did Dad do or say or respond about this? Did he ignore it? Did he take it head on? Did he struggle with it? And I think that my response is yes, all the above. Every day is a different one. And but it's great to have a support like this. And this is something with this conversation and other ones that we hope to grow a network of educators that are really interested in helping each other. It's just absolutely vital that we have a tribe in this area that is open and honest to not solving problems for each other, but just being a sounding board. Because you never know when you're going to need it. You don't know what's happening day to day. It's not like on Sunday night you look at a calendar of the week ahead and it's going to tell you which days you're going to feel like crap and which days you're going to feel like you can, run a marathon. Anyone want to respond to any of those things? That I hit any similarities or with you guys? And Sarah, I know you're just moderating, but you can jump in here too and chat and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. Just everything that y'all are saying is making so much sense. Definitely we're all people. We all have challenges and struggles. Some of us may be experiencing it in different ways and manifests in different ways. But the point is that we are all here for one another, and having that community and having the space to be able to admit that, then that is extremely powerful.
Yeah. So I think we definitely want to talk about, the reason why there are not more people on a day-to-day that are open to talking about this. I know that, an hour ago when I said, okay, it's a little after 5 o'clock, I've got this conversation coming up at 6 o'clock Eastern on a Sunday. I try to do things not to think about it because I was starting to get a little bit of anxiety about, even talking about this. It's not something that I'm used to talking, no matter how much it goes through my mind, no matter how many conversations therapist appointments, medication, all these different kind of things that are part of, some of these challenges. You just never know how you're going to feel on a day-to-day basis. So, so maybe just a little quick, think tank of, why is it taking this long? Why aren't more people on a day-to-day? And again, we're talking about educators, we're talking about parents, because there's a lot of educators that are also parents, and my work has been and will continue to include both of those entities at the same time always. We can't just take our parent hat off and have our teacher hat on. It's like impossible. No, but why aren't people talking about this? Why aren't teachers upfront about this? Does it have to do with leadership? Is it policy? Is it for fear of losing your job? What would you guys say? If someone asked you why there are only under 100 people in the SemicolonEDU Facebook group, why wouldn't there be 1,000 or 30,000? After a month of having that going?
I think it's a little of all those things. I think mental illness still in 2017 is stigmatized. I still think that there is a lot of shame attached to that. It isn't right that that's the case, but I think that definitely is the case. I think there definitely is a fear that there will be blowback, that parents will have concerns, that their child is in a classroom with someone who has these struggles. There's a lack of understanding of the general public of how depression and anxiety work and how they can be managed. I think generally in this country, we do a pretty poor job of dealing with these issues. And I think a group like this is a start of making that better, but just a start. I think we've got a long way to go. And I see that in my students who struggle with these issues.
Yeah. And hopefully we can get to that point, later on about, what does the teacher that acknowledges and can be empathetic for students because they've actually looked themselves in the mirror, talked about, this, how much better are you for those students? Again, we're talking about 1 in 5 human beings, struggle with a day-to-day mental health condition. So if you have a faculty of 60, that means 12 of them. If you have a class, of 30 kids, that means 6 of them. And when you start to put those numbers out there and on a day-to-day basis, and again, most of these people, you're not going to know. There's nothing, unless they have a semicolon tattoo or, something that acknowledge that they've actually made it part of their day-to-day, which they're working at attacking versus just, dealing with. You're not going to know. You're not going to know. And, that's something that's been really special as I've traveled around the country, and I've continued to speak on family engagement and innovation to connect with other people. I know every time I see Christina Peters somewhere, we've got to do a selfie, a semicolon selfie. And those are really powerful things. They might just seem like a photo, and you might just see them on Instagram and like, oh, that's cool, it's got 50 likes. But it's actually a really powerful experience when you can actually connect with someone else that you don't know exactly what they're dealing with on a day-to-day, but that they know, and they know that this is real life. This is hard, and bumps and bruises are part of the game on a daily basis. So it's really powerful. Leslie, anything to add on why the stigma continues here in the education space?
I live in Georgia, and down in the South, people are of the opinion that you can pray everything away. And when you say that you suffer from mental health, I've been told, by people, well, you just need to pray about it and you don't have enough faith in God. I have lots of faith in God. So please stop telling me that, because that doesn't help. Down here, it's a weakness if you admit that you have mental health issues. Sometimes I am weak, but I think most people are. And if you say that you're not, you're really telling a story. Also, as far as being an educator, who wants to hire somebody if you're not sure what you're going to get every day? So if you hire me to be a building principal, am I having a good day? Am I having a bad day? How am I going to deal with the kids? Well, the same way I dealt with the kids in my classroom. I went in there every day and I taught to the best of my ability. So I think if we do more and have more of an open conversation, it will do a lot to bring it out there and put it on the table. Mm-hmm. And I didn't join the Facebook group, and I'll be honest, because I didn't know about it. Facebook does not do a whole lot for my mental health, because I'm frankly tired of seeing everybody's perfect life. But now that I know the group exists, I shall join it, because it would really be nice to have some support and know that I can go and talk to others who understand. You know, sometimes you're just having a crappy day and you want to tell somebody you're having a crappy day, and they will understand what's going on.
Yeah, and the Facebook group it's new. It's literally like 2 weeks old, so don't feel like you missed something. I think for almost 2 years, we were using the hashtag SemicolonEDU. Really just throw some statistics out there, check in on people, let them know that there was a place. But now, you know, this closed Facebook group is something, again, there's no expectation that you go in there and you have to talk about stuff. It's really a place, like you just said, Leslie, where you can get support, recognize names and profile pictures, like, oh my gosh, that person seems like they got their shit together, but wait a minute, they but Sarah, sorry, I hope you can bleep that out in real time. But you know, it's not about having this perfect life. It's not about that. It's about doing what you need to do on a day-to-day for yourself, for the people around you, at home, at work. And that's what success is, right? Doing what you need to be doing for your job, for your home life, and for yourself. Because at the end of the day, we're educators, we're parents. The kids are watching, you know, and if the kids are watching my actions on how the approach I'm taking, you know, it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be messy, but life is messy, you know. But I think there's a certain amount of leadership, and the more I get into these conversations, you know, when leaders can look themselves in the mirror and really have good conversations about this and develop that empathy, it's good for the whole building, you know, because there's so many people on a day-to-day that sometimes it's that leader that brings on the anxiety for people for one reason or another. And sometimes that leader has someone in their life that brings on this or brings on that. So, you know, I've seen a lot more ed camps lately that has SemicolonEDU topics, and people go in there and it could be 2 people, 10 people, 20 people. The conversation, it's almost impossible not for it to be absolutely powerful. And again, finding your tribe, we're constantly picking up people to put on our tribe in our day-to-day, whether that's a Vox group, it's a Twitter chat, it's a text message, whatever that is. Anything else to add, Tracy, on the stigma to this?
Just the experiences that I've had when I have students who see my ink and recognize it and the look, and it's very powerful. And it changed in an instant. It changes the way we can interact without having anything to be said. They know that I understand on a different level, and it's just incredibly powerful. And on the other hand, I have seen students, one who was a peer when I was in college and one who was a student when I was a teacher, who had some pretty serious breakdowns related to the perception of teachers having perfect lives and feeling that their lives were so small and insignificant and we were on this pedestal. And that's a very real thing for some students, that they just feel like they can't measure up and that they're in a whole other category than the almighty teachers. And that's something that really is a barrier to relationships and a barrier to learning at the end of the day. So I think that, you know, being real, being authentic is crucial, and hiding our struggles isn't doing our students any good.
Yeah, and it takes time. You know, you've written a really great post, you know, as other people have, and some people do a podcast, some people just don't do any of those things. They get the tattoo, whatnot. It really doesn't matter. I think everyone is, you know, has to feel a part of this in the way they feel like they want to be or need to be a part of this. But it's almost like when you see that kid at the grocery store and they look at you like, oh my gosh, you go grocery shopping for your stuff too? You know, you're a real person. Yeah, we do that. We struggle with technology at home. You know, we you know, our dogs don't listen to us. Like there's lots of things that make us human, and certainly this is another one of those things. And again, I'm constantly bringing it back to my own kids now. And 4 years ago, I didn't have any kids to talk about. I didn't have that frame for this kind of work. And it wasn't on my radar to be even talking about this, but as I become a father, I feel like I've certainly raised the bar for myself, but I also see how important it is for all of us as edu-parents, whatever you want to call it, to be just doing this, to just be living it and talking about it and not being ashamed. There's no shame in this. This is what we got. These are the cards that we've been dealt. Now, how are you going to deal with them? You know, you can just hide them and put them on the side so no one, including yourself, sees them, or you can actually play the game of life, you know, on a day-to-day and get out there and go get it. So let's move along to another question. This is really just, we want people to chime in on some statistics. We started to drop some, but you know, what are the mental health statistics of note for you? What is something that maybe you've heard that kind of jumped off the page for you? Maybe something that you know, a doctor or a specialist shared with you. You know, is there a cross-section, subsection of mental health that kind of spoke more to you that you would like to share with others? Again, there's going to be people listening that just want to support. There's going to be people listening that may be feeling a certain way that this kind of validates some of that for them. So guys, take it away. I've got a couple. I'm going to put a link in the chat bar here too for some more in case you're looking for some.
I don't have any statistics because I'm not a statistical kind of person. That's actually the reason I don't have a doctorate, because I made a C twice in my statistics class and got put out of my program. But anyway, the thing that about mental health, the statistical thing, I guess that you could say for me that bothers me the most, the number of celebrities who suffer. And, you know, some people think that educators are celebrities. We're just, in my book, we're just normal people. But, and I don't remember the young man who played on Rizzoli and Isles. He was in a Disney show years ago, the famous Jet Jackson. I don't think that kid was more than 25, and his mental health issues got the better of him and he took his life. I don't like that kids can't talk to people and solve their issues. I'm almost 48 and sometimes I don't feel like I have anybody to talk to, but I make it through. Our kids shouldn't feel like that. They shouldn't think that taking their life is the best thing that they can do. So as far as me, the statistics of kids doing, you know, taking their lives or suffering, way too many. And I think that there's something that we can do to do better for our kids.
Yeah. One of the things that always stops me in my tracks, you know, we talk about, you know, you talk about your life, talk about on a daily basis, you'll see something about people that smoke, you know, and their lives are going to be shorter than people that don't for a variety of different reasons. And these stats come right from the NAMI.org, NAMI.org website. And that's the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And there's state, local, national chapters and whatnot. And they've always got a lot of infographics on this. But adults in the United States living with a mental illness die on average 25 years earlier than others, largely due to treatable medical conditions. So again, this is, we're talking about the folks that don't seek treatment, don't, you know, think it's an issue. They just think that they're messed up or they're weird or this is the cards they've been dealt and it's not ever going to get better. You know, that's a big number, 25 years. I just think about missing out on, you know, weddings and you know, well, that might not be a terrible thing. I've got 2 girls and that's going to be very expensive someday. But, you know, just think about missing out on, you know, some of their lives, you know, someday. And that's a lot of years. So again, it's another thing that moves me toward like, what can I do now? I'm in my 30s still hanging on. I think I have 4 more months until I'm out of the 30s, but it's something that I'm taking really seriously right now. And the more I read about this, I've got tons of book on neuroscience now. And, you know, I did a visit to the reservation at Pine Ridge, the Oglala Lakota. You saw them in the news, you know, for a lot of different things. So most recently over the last couple of years with the pipeline going through their backyard, that is definitely going through their backyard now after the new administration. That's not changing. But, you know, there are kids that are between 8 and 13 that are killing themselves every week. And this is mental health. And, you know, we still have mascots here in the United States that are caricatures of those kids. And they look at themselves, you know, the warriors of insert the name of the school here. And, you know, if you've already got a condition and someone's making fun of your race, that's a big deal, you know, and that's not getting any better. So I'm really even at a more heightened sense of awareness about some of those populations. I'm a white male, and I've got plenty of privilege to go around and pass along to my friends and family right now. So I'm in good shape, but there's a lot of other people that aren't on a day-to-day, and knowing those stories, hearing those stories, being able to empathize with those students and teachers and parents on the ground in Pine Ridge, South Dakota. That was almost 3 years ago. That was a really big part of me being open about this, is because I saw it from even a different lens from myself. And you can read all the statistics you want to, but when you're sitting in someone's living room talking to a grieving mother that lost their kid because their kid didn't think they mattered at all to their local or national community, you know, you don't have a heartbeat if that doesn't get to you, you know, in a certain way. A couple other stats here, I'll share before you move along. 1 in 25 adults in the United States experiences a serious mental illness in any given year that substantially interferes with the limits of one or more major life activities. So whether that be a job, losing a job, whether that be getting hurt, whether that be ending up in the hospital, you know, that's 1 in 25. Again, we're talking about 2 to 3 people on staff, talking about 1 or 2 kids in every class. You know, I think we have to continue to put it in terms of what does our day-to-day mean, you know, in those statistics, you know, so to speak. An estimated 26% of homeless adults staying in shelters live with a serious mental illness, and 46% live with a severe mental illness or a substance use disorder. Again, you know, we can talk about prisons. There's a lot of different areas where these ideas continue to grow without any sense of, you know, you can't just have people walking around, you know, especially in leadership positions, saying, well, I hope they can, you know, get tough and get a hold of things so they can, you know, deal with their life and move forward. Like, that's just not good enough. You know, hopefully as we devise more teacher prep and leadership preparation, that we're offering opportunities for people to come together, you know, and talk about things. You know, building communities and PLCs that aren't necessarily just about raising test scores, you know, building communities that raise each other up. And, you know, it's really powerful when you see people that get this. They don't need to be, you know, reading the statistics. They don't need to be, oh, it's Mental Health Month, maybe I should pay attention to this now. Like, Mental Health Month is every day in my house. You know, and I think it's really, you know, it's just like when we had a family member killed 5 years ago, you know. So when you grieve, if you've ever lost someone really close to your family, an immediate member of your family, that's just not on the death anniversary or the person's birthday twice a year. You know, I think that's what most people think, but it's a day-to-day, week-to-week thing, you know. And I think it's, again, it boils down to the magic word of relationships, the secret to the universe. And, you know, we've got to love. We got to find ways to love. And right now, our country, I really can't remember a time where in my lifetime it's ever been more divided, you know, and that's not okay. You know, that's something that we as educators don't have to succumb to. You know, we can continue to take care of each other on a day-to-day. I will queue up the next. All right, so we've been talking about support. You know, educators need support. A lot of these educators are parents. We're talking about students making connections, if that means that they saw, you know, a semicolon tattoo or, you know, some other way of entry into that conversation. But what does support look like? What does it look like for you that you're actively accessing, and what does it look like for other people that you've talked to? And more importantly, what could it look like, if more of us are doing this work moving forward? SemicolonEDU, it's really a pay it forward kind of movement, and I'm a listener for other people, and some people are my listeners, to me and whatnot. And that's just, it's an organic piece. So Leslie, Sarah, Tracy, what supports you, and what are some things that you're doing to support others?
All right, I guess I'll jump in. I've been lurking on this wonderful conversation and reading the Twitter comments as well. So one thing that has been said by quite a few people was establishing those relationships among ourselves and also with our students, so that way we can talk things out. A lot of times, having someone that you can trust to go to when you're facing a difficult moment is very, very important. So I'm trying to remember exactly who said that on there, and it's escaping me right now, but I felt that was a great point that just wanted to kind of throw out there.
I was trying to do two things at once, and the brain tells me that it's impossible. So I was looking at the Twitter feed as well. I think the support, if I'm looking at myself, it's what am I doing proactively? So I think there's a proactive and a reactive way to look at these challenges. I can wait for the next day where I don't feel 100%. I can wait for the next moment where there's a little bit of anxiety for one reason or another, or I can be proactive and take a look at, for example, it's Sunday night, later on tonight after we get the kids to bed, my wife and I will look at my schedule moving up, course, moving ahead this week. And that's like the most vital 20 minutes of our week, because I not only open the door to communicating with my best friend and my partner here at home, but I also let her know, hey, these are the things that are super important. These are the things that I just have to do. These are the things that cause a little bit of anxiety because of these reasons. And it helps me as I process and talk them out, but it also kind of helps her. Not that with all those Mazda kids and the dog up there that she's able to kind of help with those issues, but just being a voice, just being someone to talk through things is more than she even realizes, on a day-to-day. So I think being proactive about this is important. I guess the other piece of advice that I'll offer that's been helpful to me is, if you're a Fitbitter, get your 10,000 steps. There you go, Sarah. You got it. You and I got started pretty close at the same time with this Fitbit EDU stuff, but it's when I feel success, in terms of my own physical health on a daily basis. If I get out and experience sunshine and fresh air, this is a great time of year, as opposed to when winter is starting. The spring and the summer is awesome. Just being able to get outside and walk and get your steps. Fitness is a huge piece to breaking down how you're feeling on a day-to-day basis. Just getting out, doing more walking meetings. Why are we still sitting in meeting rooms? Is someone telling you have to have every single meeting in a room? Are you that married to your device that you absolutely can't leave the Wi-Fi to go and talk with someone? So, do this on your day-to-day, encourage your group, big or small, to get up and walk around and get outside. This is the time for it. It's certainly that way up here in Northeast, the United States. But I think we've got to look at mental on the same way we look at physical. There's so many diets out there, and there are so many things that you should do to look like this, to be this strong, to feel good about yourself, but we just don't hold mental health up the same way. And it is health, it's care. And, Chris Lehman always talks about this notion of care, and I love it. I love it when he talks about that, but it's so important. It's not just physical care, it's emotional, it's mental. And how you care is someone's always watching that. You know, here in our house, it's our kids, and we want to raise empathetic kids. We want to raise kids that feel like they are individuals and they're not broken in any particular way. And I think it's an evolving piece, because, you know, my wife and I still don't know what the heck we're doing with 4 kids under 4, but it's a day-to-day thing where we're trying to figure it out, and we're just trying to be honest, but we're trying to be responsible about what we can control. And some days we're just going to have to tell each other, this is a tough one, you know, so go out, go for a run, do something, get your mind off this for a while, think about something else. And then we'll kind of get back to this. So those are a couple things. Sorry I went on too long. Tracy, what do you got? Leslie?
There, I'm unmuted. Okay, so I, for someone with depression and anxiety, I did probably what was not the best decision and moved 4 hours away from my support system. So I am living far away from my 2 daughters. I have not had contact with my family in about 15 years. So yeah, my support system's pretty limited. So I guess what I do is, what makes me feel better is being able to help other people. So that's what I try and do. And that's how I build myself up as best I can. And the SemicolonEDU group kind of came along at the right time, and I'm very happy to be a part of that. So yeah, it's a struggle sometimes, but I do what I can.
Excellent. Well, we're really glad you're swimming with us on a daily basis. We really appreciate you, Tracy.
Well, thank you.
Leslie, Sarah, anything else to add?
I try to stay busy. I find myself volunteering for a lot of things, which sometimes can get overwhelming, but I find that when I sit at home and don't have anything to do, that's when, you know, it's like, oh yeah, this is what's wrong and this is what's wrong. And one of my coworkers a couple of weeks ago, actually, I think she's been doing it longer. She's doing that bullet journaling. And I'm not exactly an artistic, creative kind of person, but I find that when I write things down and it gives me something to do to be a little bit more reflective, that has helped. And, you know, I lay out my week and I write out my to-do list and I can check things off, and it's keeping me focused. And it's just, you know, I don't know, it's helping a lot. And I've gotten a new Fitbit, so I've got to get back into my steps. And I think Sarah takes more steps before I ever get out of bed in the morning. So I've got to figure out a way to catch up with her, but I do need to do a better job of making sure I get in my 10,000 steps every day.
Yeah, and the beauty of the Fitbit is I'm doing more and more like of these silent notifications. So, you know, I've got this one that happens at 9:30 every night, and if I've got like 7,500 steps or less, it will literally tell me to get my lazy ass up off the couch and go walk the dog. And I need that. I need someone to tell me, hey, like, you need this. This is a part of your meds, so to speak, is to get enough exercise on a day-to-day basis. I don't get it every day, but I pride myself on getting at least 5 days out of 7. You know, write your goals down, tell people about it. Don't keep it a secret, you know, have accountability partners. And I think that's what a lot about what the SemicolonEDU is. It's about, you know, accountability partners. It's about being able to feel supported. You're not the only one. You know, I had someone, the reason why this is green is because I had someone really close to me 5-6 years ago jump in front of a train because she was 15 and she was really stressed out about school and the normal stresses of a 15-year-old. And a lot of times they think that the world is just coming down on them, not realizing what's ahead of them, and how some of us wish we could go back to 15 for just a couple minutes, and I'd come right back, I'm sure. But she lived, and she's around today. That's Bryn McMahon, and you know, we posted her TED Talk. You know, she's in a wheelchair for the rest of her life, and her work is now talking to other kids and teachers and parents about, hey, we've got to live with what we have. and she's around for a certain reason, you know, and she continues to be a daily inspiration to me that, you know, I can't give up. I got way too much to live for. There's way too much in this world for me to go out and get and take advantage of and be a part of my kids' lives at home, and any students and teachers and colleagues that I have out in the world. So it's been great having you guys chat about this. It's a really important topic. There's no specific, you know, structure or way to talk about it, but, you know, do learn about it. When you see it, you know, fly past your feeds and your Twitter feeds, or if you see somebody, you know, out there with this tattoo, or you see it, you know, talk to them. Let them know, you know, what it means. You know, it's something that, you know, is certainly a conversation starter. And I think it's not just for the people that struggle with the issues. It's for our whole education field, all of our colleagues, all of our PLN, whether we just met on Twitter an hour ago or I've known you for 7 years. You know, we got to take care of each other. This is our profession. It's no one that's making policies profession. It's ours, and we've got to take care of each other. Because I don't know about you, we're going to be around for a while. We're going to be colleagues for a long time, and that's exciting. But we also have to look out for each other. So, Sarah, thanks for making time for the conversation. Really do appreciate it. And you know, last plug: Facebook.com/SemicolonEDU. That is a closed Facebook group. You know, for people that are just feeling like they're struggling with some of these things, whether it be ADHD, whether it be anxiety, depression. Any number of the other 20-something, you know, mental health issues. You're not judged. You know, it's just an area where you can go and kind of share what's happening and check in with other people. We get into, you know, lots of different stuff in public and private, mostly private areas. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'm going to go read some books to some little munchkins who are banging on the basement door for me to come upstairs. You guys have a good night.
All right. Thank you so much. You too, Joe. And thank you so much for moderating this awesome, powerful, honest discussion. Also wanted to thank Leslie and Tracy for being on panel and sharing their amazing insights as well. Thank you to everybody who participated on Twitter as well as on YouTube Live, and everyone who's going to be watching in the future. So this is going to be transcripted, the Twitter portion of it. The transcript will be available within the next few minutes. And this will be also available as an iTunes podcast, hopefully sooner rather than later. So next week, we are going to be talking about student choice and student engagement with moderator Irene Del Rosso. So definitely tune in for that. t.ly/tweettalk84. You can sign up to be on panel. tinyurl.com/edumatch sign up. Anyone can be a panelist, so just sign up on that form. And subscribe at bit.ly/edumatch podcast. And with that, we are going to roll out. So everybody have a great week. See you next time. Same bad time, same bad channel. Have a great one.